Are we good? Is it recording? Hi, I'm Chef Shane. I'm going to make a peach cobbler. This is my grandmother, Sarah Yent, her recipe. She died in the 60s, but this recipe probably comes from her mom, a Civil War survivor. First thing we do is we get a stick of butter, and we cut it into slivers, and we melt it and brown it. And when you brown butter, you make what's called beurre noisette. Beurre noisette means butter the color of almonds or nuts. When we make the flour into that color, what we're doing is we're basically burning one part of the butter. Butter has three components: fat, milk fat solids, which is what's going to burn, and whey. I see some athletes here. Athletes often use whey, W-H-E-Y, whey for bodybuilding. So that's one of the parts in butter. So I'm going to melt that. While I do that, I'm going to mix my dry ingredients together. It's a ratio of one part dry to 2 parts wet. So I got my wet here. Just stir it up. Then I'm going to put my dry in, this flour. I'm going to put 2 teaspoons of baking powder. I'm going to reduce the baking powder a little bit. When you're at altitude, you put less leavening agent. So I'm going to put a teaspoon of salt in there. I'm melting my butter. Soon the milk fat solids in there will officially burn. I want them to get slightly brown. I'm looking for something to color brown. Kind of almost like the North Face sweatshirt there. So slightly brown. Okay, by mixing the milk with the baking powder, soon the carbon dioxide will start to form, like almost immediately here. You can hear the sizzling. Can you guys listen here? I don't know if you can hear it, but when you put butter in a frying pan and make eggs, you always get some sizzling. The sizzling is the evaporation of the whey, which is a liquid. What I'm trying to do now is kind of burn the butter a little bit because it tastes better. So I'm kind of shimmering it. What's burning is the milk fat solids. 3 components to butter: fat or oil, whey, which is great for bodybuilders, and milk fat solid. Okay, come up here close, see if you can see it. I don't know if you can. It's going to be hard to show you guys. Really hard, but it's kind of browning there. Kind of hard to see. But I'm going to let it brown for another couple seconds. It tastes so much better, like incredibly better. So we're letting it brown a little bit. I've got my oven on at 350. Oh, this is the moment when it's just either going to be brown or burned. I'm going to go, it's almost burned, that's what I want. Here we go. So I'm going to put a lot of butter. So back in the old days, they used more butter and more sugar. In fact, Grandma Haston Yent, that's her family name, Grandma Haston, she used way more fat and way more sugar. I had to adapt the recipe a little bit for modernity. By having mise en place, I have everything ready. In this case, the mise en place is this spatula. I'm going to put in my cobbler and I'm going to kind of push it around. It will spread on its own, but I'm going to put it around the edges and hope that maybe we'll get a little thicker edges. If you've ever had cobbler, you know that it's the edges that touch the pan that taste the best. So there we go, mostly in the middle. Again, we've talked about leavening, which is the production of CO2 with the baking powder and the acid in the milk. We talked about ripening, which is putting a bag or creating ethylene with a peach or any vegetable. Ethylene furthers ripening. We've talked about ratios. Cobbler has a 2-part wet to 1 part dry ratio. Normal baking has a 1 part ratio, 1 part flour, 1 part wet. Wet includes sugar, because when you heat sugar, it melts. I've got my oven at 350. What's going to happen is we're going to see more leavening. We're going to see it go brown, which is caramelization. This is not this recipe. And if you want to hit stop there, thank you for watching. And there's Grandma's big cobbler.